Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Visibility Era, the podcast. I feel like this is a traveling show. Like I have a new background.
Yeah, you can literally travel.
I can travel the world like this. So today we have Carly Schroeder. She is the co-founder of House of Creatives. She is a creative director. She's a designer. And she's a really, really good friend. I feel like I've known Carly my entire life, even though we've only been friends for like maybe 2 years, two and a half, 3 years. It was love at first sight. Yeah, it was through a Facebook group. I honestly, this podcast probably think I'm so weird because every single person I bring on, I'm like, oh, I met them through a podcast or through a Facebook group. But anyway, Carly, please introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you. I think you did a really great job. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Yeah, I'm the co-founder, creative director of House of Creatives. We are a branding and digital marketing agency, working with solopreneurs and small businesses who are looking to build a brand that feels really true to them.
So Carly and I met when she was originally doing coaching, which is like super different from what she's doing now. But well, not really. You've always had the designer background. You've done it. You started in design, right? Right out of college. Did you do design as a college? No.
No,
Is your major?
so I in college studied marketing and advertising, and then I rebelled against the corporate world and traveled for a while, and then came back, started in corporate advertising, and was there for 3 years. And when I was there, I was doing project management. So I was basically managing the creative team, which is very different than being creative and being part of the creative team. But I think that that's where I kind of fell in love with the creative side of advertising. Just really being able to see how people work and what they're developing and all the creative directors and the meetings. It was a really cool experience. Corporate world, not for me, but I think that that's sort of what initiated me to teach myself graphic design, website design. I did in high school. I was part of the yearbook team, so I did a lot of graphic design there. Yeah, I was the photography director. So I would say that was probably like the start of having a passion for design, but didn't really dive into it until after corporate.
So I always feel like it's super interesting to learn about entrepreneurs' backgrounds. I feel like every entrepreneur has such a cool story. Like speaking of, oh my God, the other day I was talking to my friend and I'm like, oh, this freelance writer that I love to work with, did you know she used to do like MMA fighting? And she was like, or like, I forget what it's called. Like, what's like the glamorous one? Yeah, I don't know. I forget. It's like the glamorous one. But anyways, you would never know if you didn't like get to know her. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Which makes sense because like her husband is like really into fitness and like they both are like always talking about that stuff. And so it's just, but like, I don't know. Anyways, it's just so amazing to me to hear about people's backgrounds. And so when we first met, I was amazed at your whole like European like gallivanting around Europe. So can you tell us, like, bring us back before we get into design, because we are going to talk about how important like branding is with PR and building brands in general. Like it's not uncommon for a brand to come to like visibility on purpose or to come to me and Bridget if we're doing like private for them, private PR and say like, oh, I want PR. And then immediately they're like, I need to redo my branding, my website, my pictures, my logo, everything. Because when you are visible or like when your brand is becoming more visible to the masses, like you want to make sure it looks good. Yeah, and it gives you confidence and all these other things. So we'll talk about that. But before the tea, let's talk about your European excursion, where you started, what you did after college. That was so like honestly European of you, not American at all.
Not American at all. Yeah, so I knew before I graduated college that I wanted to travel. That's where I met honestly, it was probably like my last year in college was when I met my now fiance. And I remember like a year before I graduated college, I was like, hey, this is my plan. We had just started dating. I was like, do you want to come? Do you not want to come? Like, this is what I'm going to be doing. And it so happened that he had family living in England. So he was like, sure, I'd love to come. So he just didn't have like his corporate or his career really started yet either. So we uh we sold everything and took off. Our plan was to go and travel for a year, stay with his family, travel around Europe. But this was way before I knew anything about the online space and having an online business and the ability to work remotely and make money. So the way that we were traveling was very different from how we would have been traveling if we had an income. So we saved up a lot of money and obviously we stayed with his family. And then we spent 5 to 6 weeks backpacking Europe before we headed home after 6 months. So our 1 year plan turned into 6 months very quickly because we ran out of money. So before I left Europe, I was job searching. I was like, okay, well, I literally have $0. Like, what am I going to do when I get home? And I had a couple friends who worked at this corporate ad agency in Fort Lauderdale, and I reached out to them, and they were like, yes, we're hiring. So I put in my resume, they put in a good word for me, and I got an interview with them like immediately, which was amazing. So I had to quickly book my flight back home, and then I had the interview less than 24 hours after getting home from Europe.
Like 6 months.
Oh, it was rough. It was like a huge wake up call. But at the time, I was like so excited. I was ready to put my big girl pants on, I guess you could say, and get a real job. And yeah, so I took the interview. It went great. They offered me the position. I started within 2 weeks. So
Wow.
that was how that all went down. And then honestly, it was like a year in, I already started feeling that like dread of living for the weekends and just, I mean, it was corporate advertising and entry level position. You're not getting paid very well. So it just like wasn't worth it to me. And after having experienced traveling the world and, just living more free, I was like, I can't see myself doing this for the rest of my life. So that's when I started looking online. I think I got served a sponsored ad actually that was like, work remotely, start an online business. And that piqued my interest. And I took a course and dove into how to start an online business. And I was teaching myself more skills when it came to graphic design and website design. And while I was working full time at my job, I would come home and continue working on building my business. So I was doing that. That's my dog, everybody, who will definitely make an appearance multiple times here. Um, so during my lunch breaks and coming home from my job, I would be building my business. So it took me about a year to build the business and then 3.5 years total working at my job. So I quit my corporate job when I found one client who was going to be a retainer client that ended up paying me more than I was making at my corporate job, which is insane. So like that, I know that that's not something that happens to everybody, and I saw that as my opportunity. So once I scored that client, we signed a contract, and then I quit my corporate job, and I was like, this is amazing. And I had my first retainer client, and then do I just continue with the story or
I mean,
unless you have questions?
I love a monologue. I love a good monologue. Well, tell me about the transition from your corporate job to this client. Like, was this a design client, a marketing client? Because I feel like you've gone in so many different directions, like all friends, like marketing, you've done some coaching, which like I think a lot of entrepreneurs would be fantastic coaches just because like being an entrepreneur is a self-development journey and there's like nothing you can do about that. Like everything that comes up in your personal life comes up in your business in terms of like confidence and boundaries, all that stuff. So anyway, definitely some people are more gifted than others, but I'm like, not everybody is a coach at all. Like literally not. But tell me about what kind of work you did when you transitioned and then where you went from there. Because I feel like, okay, also, if you know human design, and Carly is an expert in human design, but I mean, she is. She like pretends she's not, and like she is. But if you don't know, she's a manifesting generator, and they're supposed to have like multiple passions and bounce around, which I find really cool. I feel like MGs are like the superpowers of human design because they can get things started and they can also, when they're inspired, like work and get things done, which is so cool. So anyway, I love MGs because I'm like, ooh, they're just like the best energy. They're like the spice of life. But yes, okay, transition.
Yes. So the transition was interesting because this was like a commercial real estate company. Like this wasn't anything shiny or ideally what I wanted to be doing, but I saw it as an opportunity to break out of my corporate job. So for them, I was basically a marketing assistant. So I was handling like all of their social media. I was creating landing pages for one of their big projects. They were building a brewery in Deerfield at the time, and I was a part of that project.
Really?
Yeah,
Is it still there?
just a little bit. Yeah, it's the Cove. Yeah.
Wait, I think you told me this.
Just recently, actually.
There we
But
go.
so yeah, so I was helping them, with big projects, marketing these big projects, and doing some graphic design, like designing their flyers, which was great because it was really great practice for me. And I was with them for probably a year before I raised my rate even higher, which was I was really proud of myself at the time because they definitely like didn't want to pay me that. But I communicated the value and they said yes. And so I was with them for a few more months and then eventually like they just really didn't need my help at the time. They had hired another assistant in the real estate world. So, yeah, so long story short, I was with them for about a year and then while I was with them, I was also taking design clients on the side, so building brands, strictly the visual side of it. Like I didn't really have any experience or expertise like with the messaging of which is more of what we do now. But through that process of starting my own business and getting clients and learning more about people's businesses and building brands, like I just grew a passion for messaging and positioning, which I know is a lot of what you guys do. Um, and yeah, that's when I started to shift out of just doing visuals and started to lean more into the coaching side, like becoming a brand coach, which I really enjoyed. I was really helping people hone in on their message and what makes them unique. And a lot of the time, my clients would come to me not even having a business necessarily, but having like a really good idea. And I was able to help them, like, let's figure out how to turn this into a brand. Because at the end of the day, like, you can have a business, but if you don't have a brand, it's going to be really hard to scale. So that's why I always like to prioritize branding because so many business owners put branding to the side because they think that it's like just a logo or just a website. But at the end of the day, like your brand is like the entire customer experience. Like everything is your brand. And if you can create a strong foundation from the beginning, that's just going to help you to, move the needle quicker when it comes to growing and scaling your business.
Speaking of everything is your brand, you're literally, and there's so many things I want to talk about. Okay, so number one is your amazing ability for design. Like you and design. I mean, I ambushed her house. This is her home. And I was like, can we film at your house? Because I love these leather chairs. The traveling podcast. I love your plant. Honestly, her whole house is a vibe. But you're so good at visuals in general when it comes to online, in person. And then in addition to that, I want to talk about the all areas of brand because I think this is really important. A lot of brands come and they say, "Oh yeah, I have a website," and I look at their website and I'm like, "Oof," and I don't mean this in a bad way. It's just they don't have a message. It's the same message as every other business in their field, which it's like, say it's like, speaking of design, interior designer, it's like, I help you design your dream home. Like, barf. Like, what even is that? What does that mean? And also, that doesn't show your personality. That doesn't show your differentiators. That doesn't show why anybody should choose you over somebody else. And so that's on the consumer side. And then on your side, do you feel confident when you say that to somebody? Does that feel like you're giving your all of what you do? And so I hear this all the time. Bridget hears this all the time. It's that it's that thing of like, I don't feel like when I tell somebody my I help statement or my mission statement, it really it doesn't feel like me, and it doesn't talk or highlight all the amazing things that I do. So we help a lot with like the words, but when it comes to all the other pieces, that's like we are always referring people to House of Creatives. Like I try my best to be like, no, like literally go this way first and then come this way because there's so many different elements. So can you tell everybody like what those elements are? Like obviously words.
Yeah, so definitely words. I always say that like the visuals come last because I think you made a really great point about people, if they're not feeling confident in their elevator pitch or just sharing about what it is that they do, and we've all been there. Like there's still times where I'm like, not feeling confident or I feel like it's not good enough, whatever. Those are those are limiting beliefs that we need to move through, but so much of that confidence comes from the clarity piece. Like once you understand like who you are and what you're offering and your unique like value proposition, all of those important pieces are going to help you to feel more confident so that you're not showing up like hunched over, nervous. Granted, we all get nervous. I'm nervous here. So I think it's just a matter of feeling confident in what you're offering and allowing that to come out naturally. And that will happen when you've done this like foundational work of okay, what is my brand? Like what do I stand for? What are my values? Like what is the mission behind what I'm doing? What's this core message, the thing that makes me different from everyone else? And really just honing in on those things. Like what's that big idea that you have? And something that I want to emphasize is like it doesn't need to be this like grand thing that's super original and no one has ever heard of. Like that is like such a big misconception. And I think something that holds a lot of entrepreneurs back is feeling like what they have isn't good enough because it's been said before. And just because it's been said before does not mean that you're not going to attract amazing clientele and grow your business and scale your business to new heights. At the end of the day, like everything we're all saying has been said before. It's just a matter of positioning it in a way that feels true to you. And I think something that a lot of entrepreneurs and solopreneurs do is they try and mimic or mirror what other people are doing. And at the end of the day, like it doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because it doesn't feel true to them and the way that they're positioning it. So if you can find a way to position it in a way that feels really good for you, that's when the magic happens. Like that's when it becomes so easy to talk about what you do and who you help. And then once you get to that point, then you step into the visual side, which is crafting a logo and a color palette and typography and a website and marketing materials and social media. All of that comes from that foundation. And this is why I think so many coaches and entrepreneurs and creatives like just rebrand all the time is because they're constantly evolving, which is fine. Rebrands are completely normal and are a part of the process. But I think it would happen much less if people took the time to dig into that foundational brand work.
That's so, so good because when I think about brands that jump into logos first or visuals, typically it's coming from more of an egoic standpoint of like, I saw what works, and so I just want to do this. But with PR and branding and words and thinking about like that side, like words hold such powerful meaning. And two words can mean the same thing, but also not at the same time. And so when we get our foundations with the words first and we work on that, the foundation, I know it's so easy to run ahead and be like, oh, I want to see the visuals. I want to see the visuals because it's the exciting part, right? It's the fun part. Like the words part can feel heavy and daunting sometimes because it's like, how am I supposed to like bring in these words that hold everything that I do? But once you start with that, it really informs everything else. It's like, okay, like now we know that I want to be bold because that's who I am. And so therefore I'm going to choose bold fonts and like this and that. And so I love the way that you work because you work very much in a very like structured way where you're going to help somebody unravel exactly what feels unique to them for their brand. And Carly works a lot with solo entrepreneurs, but that doesn't mean that this doesn't work for products because it works for products as well. I've worked with a ton of product brands over the years, and I'll see product brands that do this really well, and tastefully. And at the end of the day, a brand is not just the product or it's not just the service. Like a brand is a community that you're building. And so when you're building the community, it's like, why do people come to this community and feel seen? Because they like that you're bold or whatever. They like that maybe you're a little outspoken. They like that you're this, or they like that you're soft and they like that you're cozy in a safe space. It's funny. I was on TikTok the other day, just speaking of like personal brands. Honestly, like the TikTok babies like slay at this. They do. They really do. There's this one TikToker. I think she's like she's got to be like 22 years old, and I think she's my favorite TikToker. And I'm like 33 to give reference. And she is just this like whimsical, quiet, like cozy person. Like I could watch her all day. And I think because I'm like not that way, I love that. It's like calming to my nervous system. And so I'll see her and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the cutest page ever. And like she has said before on her TikTok, I love when people say that I'm their like cozy influencer. And I'm like, what? Or their comfort influencer. And so it's such a, that to me shows she's understanding her brand. I mean, she's acting like herself. And sometimes when we have like a brand outside of ourselves, it's kind of hard to, I mean, it's hard both ways. It's hard sometimes when it's you, and then the other way, you're like, what do I want to build? And so, yeah, both ways can be difficult. But I think at the end of the day, like understanding what vibe you want to put out is like number one, and going from there. So, anyway, just to piggyback on what you said.
Well, there is something that I would love to add to that because I think having the words and having the foundation is so important. But then there's also the flip side too, which a lot of people forget about. I'm like so used to it, I like don't even see it anymore.
Nicely
Yeah.
put.
Oh, Miles. And I think the flip side is important too, where it's like there are a lot of entrepreneurs and brands out there that have the words in place, but also their visuals aren't aligned with it. And I think that you're missing the mark there with that. If your messaging's great, but the visuals are really what are captivating people at first glance, and if that's not aligned to how you're showing up and your message and your voice, then there's going to be a disconnect, and when there's a disconnect, there's less trust with the buyer. And I think that if they can see that the messaging is aligned with the visuals and what they're seeing, because it's almost like this saying that you can actions speak louder than words, right? It's like what you're doing visually and how you're marketing, if that's aligned with your message and how you're showing up, then you're creating a full experience for the viewer or the customer or the buyer. So, yeah.
I love that you said experience. I was like, ooh, yes, experience. So I agree with you there with visuals. Of course, words are very important, but I have seen also brands that they have for example, like they'll have like a very bold personality. I keep like using this as the example, but it's just an easy one in terms of like a personal brand. And what I mean by personal brands is, you could be like a health practitioner or something like that, like a psychologist, a dietitian, nutritionist, a meditation expert. You could even be like a real estate expert. We work with like a lot of real estate experts, actually. They'll come through VOP, which is fun. Yeah. And so like specializing in like building rental portfolios or something like that. But anyway, they might have the words down and then you'll go to their website and it's like really soft colors and like there's just not a cohesive thing. So trust, yes, but also confusion. I see confusion a lot where they might not understand what they're getting into. So maybe like, somebody sees the website first off of Google, but they don't see you doing reels on Instagram and they decide to like have a discovery call and they're like, I didn't expect this. And so it can also create confusion. So you just want to make sure that like all of the pieces make sense. And again, this can also be very similar to brands. So instead of a person, you just think of like the product and think of like what the colors are portraying. Like, okay, I think of this all the time. This was like kind of funny. I used to work for this butt wipes brand. um, and they also did like other care wipes for men, women, whatever. And they used to have like hilarious like packaging, and it was also like two guys in college that created these, so it just like cracks me up because it's just so boy, like just like they were like frat boys. But this brand was very popular and it was sold in like Target, and it was one of our big brands when I worked in corporate. And they had like hilarious, fun packaging. It was like bubble letters, and like they would say like they, I'm not going to say it. But anyway, just like it was like slightly inappropriate things on their packaging. And I just thought it was so funny because it was like making light of like butt
Yeah,
wipes.
yeah.
And like that was their brand. Whereas like other brands might be like flowers and like very like beautiful and like, and it also creates like luxury versus like for the common use. So yeah, I mean, I feel like you have other
Yeah.
things to say about this.
Well, I mean, 100%. Like, there's so many different types of butt wipes out there. It's the same wipe, but it's like, who are they targeting? And I think an important thing to think about there is like who the target market is, right? Because exactly, if they're young people who value like a sense of humor and just like want something different and something that stands out, then they're doing it right versus these other companies who, we don't know who they're targeting necessarily, could be everybody. So I think that it's just, yeah, I think there's a few things you have to think about. You have to think about like what feels true to you and authentic to you, but also don't forget about your target market. I think that's like such a big point because so many people are out here crafting messaging and brands that they think people want without actually knowing what it is that their people want, which comes from market research and truly understanding who your buyers are.
That's exactly it. Because at that time, this was like many years ago, adults and millennials and whoever were buying like kids'
Yeah.
wipes. So it was, or like baby wipes. That's what they were buying, baby wipes. Like there wasn't really other wipes on the market that were for adults or for like people that wanted some cleanliness that were like a little older. They also like said like, oh, you could use these wipes like after you exercise and just a little refresh. Like I just, it was, they had their target market dialed the F in, where if I were to go to Target and see baby wipes and this product that was clearly for me, for my age group and whatever, I would buy that over the baby wipes because it just makes sense. I'm not a baby. So, so yes, I agree with you. I think target market. So, Carly, how do you help people juggle all of these different pieces and find a brand that feels good to them? Because it can feel overwhelming. Like now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I feel like I can hear people on the other end say, like, okay, well, you're telling me to be like me, but then I have to think about my consumer and then I have to think about the visuals in addition to the words. So, like, I guess, like, take me through the process of how you help people kind of balance all these pieces because they are all important, but like, where is it on the, I guess, like the pie of like branding?
So we developed something called the True to You brand method, which we think is, we believe, and I'm speaking for my business partner, Michelle, who I did not mention yet, this is the method that we believe really is that sweet spot for entrepreneurs. And the method includes getting, thinking about who you are right now in this moment and also thinking about who it is that you're becoming. Because I think that a lot of entrepreneurs and brands are either stuck on one or the other. And there that leaves a disconnect for the way that they show up, which we talked about earlier. So if you can find that sweet spot between who you are right now and what feels comfortable and safe for you, that's really important because if you're creating a brand based off of who you think that you're becoming, mind you, we all change through that process. If you're developing a brand based off of future you and only future you, there's going to be a disconnect in the way that you show up because it does not feel authentic yet. Versus if you're finding that sweet spot between what feels comfortable and safe for me now without feeling like too safe to the point where like you're not pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone or your boundaries, right? We want to find that like that spot that just feels like authentic but also safe enough to explore outside of. So finding that sweet spot of where you are right now and then the version of you or the version of your business that you are stepping into is where we create brands from. And the reason for that is because once you've found that sweet spot, the way that you show up is like a whole nother level. Like you show up with confidence and authenticity. You show up with, okay, I feel like this is true for me and authentic for me, but I also feel confident and empowered and excited for what's about to come. And just imagine how you're showing up when you have that piece of clarity. And that clarity usually comes from the first step in our process, which is our business blueprint, which we honestly like to call brand therapy because it's like it's literally therapy. Like we like to get deep. Yeah.
Wait, I just had a little piece. You know, like people say that like your hairstylist is your therapist. Like literally when it comes to branding, because you're dealing with people's like vulnerability and confidence, especially with personal brands, which you do a ton of personal branding work. It's it feels a lot like it's them. So they get like nervous about this or do they yeah, like do I want to existential crisis? Do I want to be this way or whatever? So when that kind of feedback happens, where maybe they're going into, I mean, it typically we have clients that can hold themselves to a certain, you know, I'll deal with this emotion later. But every once in a while, we're human and we're like, oh my gosh, spiraling a little bit, or like maybe asking you questions like, how do you help them navigate that? And I think this is where your coaching background comes in really well because I would just be like, I think you can go figure this out and you just sit with that and then come back to me. Whereas I think you can help people work through it really quickly, which is also a testament to the fast work that you do, which they do these like almost like crash branding like sessions where they can like come up with, well, you can talk about that. But anyways, you've really collapsed the timeline for getting a website up and the branding up. So how do you navigate that?
So it's a great question. And we've definitely had like clients cry on our on calls before, and like we want to have a safe enough space where they can do that because personal branding is truly personal. And yeah, the reason why we call it brand therapy is because we get to your goals and your vision and like what's holding you back, and why do you think that you haven't seen the success that you're envisioning or wanting, and that can bring up a lot of emotions. And I think I do have a coaching background, but I'm not like a therapist or trauma informed or anything. So I think it's more so just validating how they're feeling and bringing up examples of how we've experienced this ourselves, because Michelle and I have both been in that position. And we've been through periods of burnout and been through periods of like chasing something that wasn't right for us. And I think just creating a safe space for our clients to explore that and then also help to bring them back to, you know, what is it that feels safe for them right now? Because again, like that first piece of that framework is truly like what feels authentic and true for you right now. Because if you're trying to build something that doesn't feel true to you, then it's just not going to scale. So creating that safe space for our clients to explore what feels true for them, but then also empowering them and showing them that like what they're envisioning is 100% possible and like we have their backs. Like I think that's something that Michelle and I really that sets us apart is like we back our clients' mission as much as they do. Yeah. And that's why we have been able to honestly collapse our timelines, which you mentioned, is because we work with one client at a time. And the reason for that is because we want to be their sole team. Like that's the only person that they should be working with at that moment. We want to make sure that our clients feel like we get their mission and we understand exactly what they're doing and we back them 100%, and we're building something that aligns with that. So the reason why we have been able to expedite that is because we're attracting clients and business owners and personal brands who just trust us. Like yeah. They're not here to just like nitpick and focus on these tiny little details that at the end of the day do not matter. They're looking for a team who supports their vision as much as they do, and they trust them enough to just bring it to life and know that it's going to make an impact. So I think, yeah.
That's a really good trust. I think it's so important when you work with like any service provider that if you're working with them because you trust them. And of course, you are your brand at the end of the day. You make the calls. Like we are not here. If you decide, if we push back and you're like, no, this is what I want, then that's what we'll go with. That's same thing with PR and messaging, same thing with like design. But we are, we have many years of experience. We're here to help you with all these pieces. And I think what you do really well is you help people make their choices quickly because you've given them you've asked them the right questions. And I think with branding, it's asking the right questions instead of having them try on. I almost like, as you were talking, I was like thinking of somebody like in a closet, like trying on different outfits of like, is this cute? No, I don't want to wear this today. Is this cute? No, I don't want to wear this today. And
Exactly.
yeah, and so sometimes when we're thinking about something as much as design or branding, words, visuals, all the things, we don't want to go through all those phases of trying things on. And like you said, doing rebrands constantly. Instead, we can minimize the timeline between the rebrands because obviously, like things go in and out of style. Like I was really into like I don't know, alternative dressing when I was in middle school. Like obviously that's not what we're doing today. Like rebrands happen. But I like it. I feel like I'm in a jungle. Rebrands happen. But if we're able to feel really confident in our brand, we're not going to be like bouncing out of it quickly. It's more of like we've just evolved as a brand. And so therefore, like I decided like I'm beachy and I'm feeling this beach vibe and this feels true to me right now in this season. And so therefore, like my outfit is going to be that way. It doesn't mean that I didn't love that time period of myself because I absolutely did. So I think the difference here is loving the design and the branding that you're in right now without borrowing it and borrowing a look from somebody else.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, yeah, I mean, honestly, you nailed it. That's I don't have anything else.
We, we love the analogies of like and I feel like, yeah, analogies in general, it's just like trying on the dress, seeing if it works. But can you tell us, like, I don't know if you guys are hearing the dog. He's so funny. He's such a sweet boy. He like delicately puts the ball in your lap and he's like, please play with me. On another level of cuteness, Okay, this looks really inappropriate, but he's just dropping the ball in my Okay, back to our interview. This is so, so good. So, Carly, how long does it take somebody to go through your branding process? I find your process to be incredible because let's be honest, like clients can drag their feet, and also on the other side, branding can drag their feet. Like it drives me nuts when I work with a client who actually has all their shit together, for lack of a better term, and they're waiting for their designer to get back something, or they're waiting for their photographer. Usually photographers are really good, so thank you to the photographers, but they're waiting for like their designer to get back with a website or whatever, and it drives me nuts because it pushes our timeline and their, vision of whatever year. They're like, I want to get out there in 2025 and be like whatever. So how long does it take from like process A to process B? And I'm talking like either it be a new client that is just kind of like maybe their brand is doing really well, or their business is doing really, really well. They're making money, but they never actually invested in branding versus somebody that even wants a rebrand. They just want like a refresh. Is the timeline different or is it the same?
So it's the same. Yeah, I love what you said about the the agencies and the designers really just taking a long time. And I get it. The creative process can be a really long process, but it also doesn't have to be. Um, it, it really doesn't. As a designer, like the more you sit on it, the more you're gonna nitpick, and the more that you're gonna, yeah, there's just a level of perfectionism, I think, when it comes to creativity. But um, and yeah, I think that's what led us into shifting our business model was because we were working with clients and it was dragging on for 3 to 6 months. Honestly, we've worked with a client whose the project has dragged on for a year. Like, and it's a lot. And, there's a lot going on with that. Like, the client had a baby, and then there was a lot of things happening. So Michelle and I decided, okay, this isn't, first of all, we're running a business. So at the end of the day, like it needs to be profitable, and it wasn't profitable. So we needed to really rethink our timeline. And a lot of that, like I said earlier, has come down to who we're targeting. So we have shifted who we're working with from like new entrepreneurs who have an idea and have never like started a business before versus experienced business owners who maybe, like you said, necessarily don't have a brand quite yet, or they do and they need a refresh. Like they at least have some business sense and they know that, you know, the inch that's between the letters and the logo isn't going to be the thing that brings them sales. So, and listen, we've all been through that experience. We start somewhere, and fixating on details like that can sometimes be part of the journey. However, we were like, okay, we need to expedite this timeline. So the way that we work with clients is through our business blueprint process, which is that brand therapy I mentioned earlier, where we meet with our clients for a 90-minute session. It's basically an interview like this. We just ask them a bunch of questions, take a bunch of notes, and then together, Michelle and I put together a plan for them, which includes like opportunities that we see for branding and marketing and even operations. So, like, this is the message you should be focusing on if you're looking to XYZ. This is how you want to be positioned. This is how your brand voice should feel and look and sound. And then the marketing aspect, like, here are ways that we can improve your online visibility or customer journey. We love talking about customer journey because so many of our clients like want to make sure that their clients have the best experience and walk away like screaming their name from the rooftops. And it's like, okay, let's figure out how to make this process like amazing so that your clients are just obsessed with you. So we give them all the opportunities in that document, and uh, then we also provide them a proposal. So they can either take that document and go DIY it, which majority of the time they don't, considering who our type of client is. They're looking for a team to bring it to life. So it's great for them because they now have a document that shows them exactly what we're going to do for them and what our strategy is and what that background is. And then we give them a proposal to make it all happen. So majority of them say yes and move forward, and we build brands within 2 days, 1 to 2 days. So it sounds quick, but there's a lot of prep work and stuff that happens and a lot of things that happen behind the scenes for that to actually like be successful. But we meet with our clients on like we have a whole workshop day pretty much. So 1 to 2 days, we're meeting with the client, we're presenting all of the design work, we're workshopping and figuring it out like what edits do we want to make? We're making those edits like on the spot, and we're finalizing brands within that end of the intensive, we call it, which is that 1 to 2 days. So they're walking away with everything that they need in such a short time frame compared to like most agencies, which again take like 3 to 6 months.
Literally the most badass experience. I love it. I love it. I really do because again, sometimes when 50 more than 50%, maybe 60% of the time when brands come to a publicist, whether it be me, whether it be DIY or whatever, they do want to refresh. And when they get all excited and they want to dive into this and they're like, "Wait, I want to refresh," and they don't realize the timelines, it can be very daunting. So House of Creatives is an amazing option for you. Carly, thank you so much for coming on. She is my soul sis in Florida. It's been like such a special time to have a good friend down here. Like when I moved, I was really nervous about not making friends. And I feel like the second we met, I've just had a really good friend. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I just had to add and say, like, I'm so happy to have you as a friend here. And yeah, we clicked right away. And yeah, it's nice that we can have these conversations about life and business. So thank you for having me.
Carly, where can people find you?
You can find us on our website at house-of-creatives.com. We have everything you possibly need on there, including free resources. And then we have an Instagram page that we are not consistent on and have not put much effort into until recently. That is also House of Creatives with a double underscore. Yeah, you can find us in those places. And
And there's Miles. I don't think the mic's picking it up, but if they do, Miles, come here. Come here. He literally won't come. He's like, "Wait, where's the ball? Is it under?" Okay, he's just wanting to play ball. It's underneath. Anyway, thank you so much, Carly, for coming on to Visibility Era. And thank you. Here he is. And thank you all for listening to another episode of Visibility Era, the podcast.